morning, good morning. What is up, folks? JT here with another Chart Talk Live for you, courtesy of Xtrades. It is Thursday, September the 11th. Hope everybody is doing well. Let me get a couple of things adjusted here so we're ready to go. All right, let's get down to the chat. What's up, LB? Here bright and early. Good to see you, as always. Let me get my screen sharing started. Come on, share screen. There we go. All right, looks like we're green across the board. Everything looks good. Let's dig in, shall we? All right, so we'll give people a minute to kind of filter in here. Let me finish getting. Yeah, that looks good. We got all of our recap charts up. YouTube looks good. Good morning, folks on YouTube. Hope you're doing well. I appreciate it, man. I try to keep that stuff on point, even if it happens to be, in the case of Disney, for a loss, but a smart loss. We have clearly fallen off a cliff with Disney, so we clearly cut that trade when it should have been cut. That's part of the game, right? Keeping those wins big, keeping those losses small, get out of the trade before things get worse. So we escaped for a small loss on that one. Disney just never had the volume come in, but we'll talk about that when we get to that trade plan. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning. How are you? Hope you're doing well. All right, so let's dig in. Let's not dilly-dally. We'll let people filter in as we go through this stuff. The early bird gets the worm, as they say. So, things with ES continue to grind higher. No surprises there. We are struggling a little bit with this fib extension here at 65.64. I'll go back and show you all where that was measured from. So off this prior all-time high here back in July, we are currently testing that 100% extension here at 65, 63, 75. So let's fast forward to where we're currently at. Here's that fib extension off that July high. We are double topping off of it a little bit here this morning pre-market. We do probably have some data coming out. I should have already had that up in front of me. My apologies. Oh yeah, that's right. This morning was the inflation readings, CPI. Just looking at the numbers. Everything almost exactly in line. Year-over-year readings were exactly in line. Core inflation overall was exactly in line, but the overall inflation rate did come in a little bit higher, 0.4 month over month. Previous reading was 0.2, consensus was 0.3, and the year-over-year inflation at 2.9. That was actually in line with the consensus, but higher than the prior reading. So inflation numbers coming in slightly hot. Jobless claims also surged from the previous week's reading up to 240,000. Previous reading was 230. So interesting stuff. CPI did just hit, yep, and jobless claims did hit. Both numbers coming in not great as far as the numbers we would like to see for a healthy economy. But the flip side of that coin is those numbers also indicate or give good reasoning for the Fed to potentially cut rates next week. I believe that's when the rate decision is, right? Double check that. Yeah. Yeah, rate decision next Wednesday, uh, afternoon, 2 p.m. So this could be leading to uh, the already projected and anticipated Fed rate cut. Again, there's still uh, a strong consensus, is probably the right way to say it, that we will see 2 rate cuts this year. Only a few months left in the year, so would certainly not be surprised to see a September rate cut. I think the uh, what am I looking for? The odds are certainly in favor of a 25 basis point cut, potentially 50. That's also in the mix. I've seen some people throwing out some crazy numbers like 100 basis points. I don't think we'll see that, but anything is possible, especially in the current volatile political climate. So, get a little coffee in. All right, let's get back to our charts. Sorry for getting stuck on those data points for a second there. So, like I said, double topping here at this 100% fib extension off the July market highs. Those data points that came in, again, not necessarily great from an economic standpoint, but do provide some fuel for potential Fed rate cut coming up here next week. So let's get to some trade plan recaps, and then we'll get to some new ticker requests. So if you all have any tickers you want me to take a look at, feel free to go ahead and start dropping those in the chats. We'll take a look at those here shortly. Or if you have any questions that you want me to answer as we're making our way through this morning's live stream, please feel free to drop those in the chats as well. Happy to answer any questions you all may have, assuming I do have the answer. All right, sorry, trying to get extra coffee in here this morning. So, from a trade plan recap perspective, let's go through some of these. I'm going to drop this down to the 15 minutes so we can kind of see how this would actually play out. We had Wolf from last Tuesday's live stream plan. This one shortly after, oh no, I'm sorry, this week's, golly. This week, this past Tuesday, that's what I'm trying to say, live stream. So we did this one just a couple of days ago. This one did give us a break above here on the 15-minute chart, a little bit of a back test, and then off to the races for PT1 Plus. Now hovering over PT1 as support and continuing to try to hold it. We saw it tested there yesterday. Looks like we're going to see another test here pre-market. But so far, Wolf looking pretty solid and making its way up through our price targets. So continue to keep your eyes on this one, especially if obviously you're already in it, you'll be watching it. But Wolf looking good, consolidating a little bit. Market's definitely looking like it might want to consolidate, go sideways until it figures out what it wants the next move to be. So we'll keep an eye on all that. But things still overall bullish, still buy the dip market despite some volatility and uncertainty. We haven't seen anything break down from a structural standpoint on the market. So again, until that happens, don't try to time the top. Let's just focus on buying the dip, but buying the right dips and finding the right opportunities and the right windows to execute for profit. All right. We also had Pinduoduo. I'm not going to get into the other name that we were throwing around for this one from Tuesday's live stream. Nothing really happening here so far on PDD. Just kind of moving sideways below the call entry and the above the stop loss average down for that upside trade plan. So PDD, nothing happening so far, but continue to keep it on watch. Still looks strong, still looks healthy, especially as long as it's holding over 123.43. We did NBIZ after this big pump that it had recently. So far, it has stayed within the range. Actually, let me go to the 15-minute chart here. I didn't watch NBIZ much yesterday. That does look like a pretty good confirmed break. Strong close over there. but looks like a little bit of a liquidity grab for sure. I'm sure if we went to the 30-minute, probably does look, no, still looks like a close above at least, but no real good back testing or anything like that. Anyway, NBIZ potential confirmed break there, to the upside, pulled back. It's holding the stop loss average down so far. Does have NTS favorable with some bullishness that it's currently in, and some buy pressure in the 200 SMA coming up underneath right there. So gonna probably be testing a confluence here at 91.13. Especially if that 200 SMA catches up, we could see a bounce off 91.13 and another push on NBIZ if the market abides. But that remains to be seen. So keep your eyes on it. But NBIZ, so far, potential call entry just looks a little fishy to me. And it's kind of hard to guesstimate what you would do without watching it in real time and seeing how this pullback candle reacted to the call entry level there. Did we see any signs of buying, or did it just shoot right back down below? In which case, might have been one that we could have avoided, but I'm not going to speculate on that. Diz, we just talked about this one briefly. Unfortunately, took another rare loss on an alert. I think I've only had 2 now in the last 12 plus months as far as my alerts go. Again, things were looking good for Diz to push to the upside. We possibly just missed the exit here. Was a little bit shy of our first price target after we took an entry on this one. And I certainly considered trying to get a fill and closing out at least some positions on it, but I didn't. I was waiting for PT1 to actually hit, so maybe I was being a little bit greedy. We did wind up cutting this trade yesterday morning, and again, clearly that was the right call. No, actually, I think we finally got our confirmed break there Tuesday on our way into the close. My apologies. Yeah, we did close that Tuesday. Obviously, that was the right call as it dropped significantly more yesterday, and it continues to look decently bearish now at this point. So that's the benefit of sticking to a plan and keeping your wins big and your losses small. It was a small hit. I think it was, 20-some% or something like that was the loss that we took on that trade. So not a big deal at all, just part of the stats that keep anybody from having a 100% win rate. Diz volume just never came in on it. It continued to look very sort of anemic on the volume side of things, and eventually that allowed bears to take control and push things to the downside. But again, we got out before it got a lot worse. So good exit on that one. We should pat ourselves on the back, even though it was a loss. We did the right thing by taking the exit right where we planned it. Gold continues to pull back some here, but overall pulling back into some good buying pressure. Nice push here this morning with that CPI reading and jobless claims data coming out. Gold being looking like a flight to safety still asset. So things looking decent on gold. Gold could push again if we get a break back over 335.64, or another back test of 331.88 would be a good buy the dip opportunity potentially. And then last but not least, we did Lays. We did Lays as an upside only trade plan because downside opportunity was just so limited with its current price point. And nothing to see here. Lays has not given us a break above the call entry since we did this plan last Thursday. So it's kind of just been floating, moving, grinding sideways between 184 and this 245 call entry, which is really kind of no man's land. Nothing to see here. All right, so let's get to some. Doesn't gold do great if they drop rates on possible inflation fears? Yes, right? Because if they drop rates and continue to inject money, dollars into the economy, essentially what that does is it continues to devalue the dollar. So what do you want to do? You want to have some of your money in an asset that is not being eroded by economic policy. Gold is a stable value asset. So if anything, it is keeping your money from being eroded by inflation. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the gist of it. I felt like I had another point I was gonna make there, but I've already forgotten what it was mid sentence. I'm still working through my first cup of coffee, so forgive me if my brain is not firing on all cylinders. But yeah, it'll move up on inflation fears, and then obviously you get that's the other thing I meant to say. You, as others, right, see the same opportunity to move their money into a more stable value asset and out of the dollar into something like gold. Not only do you have the benefit of the stability, but then you have the benefit of rising gold prices as more and more people buy into gold. So, yeah, gold's definitely a good one to watch. Although the thing to be somewhat mindful and just conscientious of is that crypto is very much trying to become that new flight to safety, that alternate asset that people will buy to avoid being stuck in any volatility going on with the US dollar. So, I think there's it would be healthy to have some it would be healthy to at least have it in the back of your mind that gold may not always move the way that it's moved traditionally because of the continued growing adoption of crypto as one of those alternative assets outside of the US dollar. So, yeah, that's my take on how that all will affect gold. All right, so let's get those ticker requests in, folks. What do you want me to take a look at? What do you want to do trade plans on this morning? Please plug that into the chats. If you all who are new here aren't familiar with how to open up the chat on these morning live streams, it's the little word bubble icon top right hand corner of your Discord. That's where you can type little messages to me and where I will read those and respond and obviously talk about whatever it is you want us to take a look at. We've got LB in here with UNH as the first ticker request of the day, but I'm sure we will have time for more than just one. So please start dropping some ticker requests in the chats. Also available to those of you watching on YouTube. If anybody has a ticker you want me to take a look at, or any questions you might have, feel free to drop any of that in the chats, and we'll do our best to cover as much of those questions and ticker requests as we possibly can. All right, UNH. Let's see. We did have a trade plan on it at one point. Let's run up through all three of those price targets, but did reject this daily level there at 351.15. Has pulled back into the buy pressure there on NTS 15 minute and is trying to bounce from that. So far it's doing a good job. But let's get a solid trade plan together on this one. UNH is not one that I have charted or traded a lot, but we do have some existing levels here, and the levels we do have so far seem to be playing out nicely. Why did that not get changed? So let's come up with a new plan on this one. Sure, we can take a look at AMD. Bio. That's what I'm going to go with. Of that very hard to pronounce name. To the moon. Do I think it's going to have a big impact on the market today? I don't think so. I think the market's really ultimately waiting for FOMC next week. and seeing what the rate decisions look like. So I don't expect a massive impact. The numbers also didn't really come in way out of line. They weren't necessarily great, but they also weren't terrible. Um, so no, I don't expect it to have a um, big effect on the markets. Obviously, it's going to have some effect, people having that data in hand now, but I don't anticipate it having a major effect. All right, so we've talked about this one a few times. UNH is testing that break to open up what I think is a potential window of opportunity to the upside. If we can break over this 351.15 level that we have struggled with already, there is a fair value gap that fills all the way up here at 377.44. However, I think that that's a bit greedy as a first price target. So let's see if we can't figure out where would be a good spot to take some profits on our way to filling that fair value gap up to 377. Question is, how far back in time do we have to go? There we go. To find out where that might be, and I think I've already got the answer. Um, hmm. Really could make a case for either of these levels, but let's be smart. In fact, let's use that because both of these levels look pretty good and definitely looks like we'd get a push up to that fair value gap fill over 366.54. So I'm going to actually set these both as price targets, and then we'll look for that fair value gap fill to the upside there. There is a level in here that I don't have marked yet, though, that I'm going to mark real quick. It's sitting right about here. Not going to be a factor in our plan, but go ahead and mark it while I see it. And I think our stop loss will be at that 345.04 level. Did get a little bit of a fake out below there, but I don't expect to see another one of those. So let's go ahead and lock that in, kind of as I was. But this is very similar to essentially a setup and plan that I outlined in the chat one day recently. So essentially, we're just formalizing that and making it the actual plan now. All right, where does downside potentially open up? Obviously, we've got this prior resistance all the way down there at 334.50. Just want to see how this is played through these levels in the past. Yeah, I think we can take a shot at catching a downside move below this level. First target down here at weekly support. Yeah, second target. Also have some confluence down there with the 200 SMA here on the hourly. Down there at 314.89. Yo, what's up, Chris? Better late than never, brother. Good to see you in the mix. Good morning to you as well. We are working on our UNH trade plan as requested by LB. I do want to see if we've got some confirmation or anything on this. Sweeps above there, and then we're going to have to go way back in time. I'm eyeballing this 341.23 as a potential stop loss for this downside trade plan, but I want some confirmation, not just this one recent little dip that bounced off of it. think we are gonna get some confirmation here. Let's see. That looked good. Nice bounce off of it there. Saw what I needed to see. I was just looking for a little bit more. Didn't get it, but I think we do have a level right around here that we were going to want to watch, and certainly can be useful for this downside trade plan as a stop loss average down level. Yeah, rate cuts seem imminent. We were definitely just talking about that. Lots of fuel and that data this morning for the Fed to cut rates next week would also very much be in line with sort of what they've projected previously. But yeah, hot inflation numbers, hot jobless claims numbers. Not crazy hot, but slightly higher than expected on both readings this morning. That certainly would give the data that the Fed needs to start cutting rates. And again, very much in line with what they've been projecting for a while now. So still, again, in my opinion, 2 rate cuts on the board before we get through the end of the year. Most likely a 25 basis points cut next week, but not impossible to potentially see 50 basis points. I think expecting anything higher than that would be unrealistic. I saw some people in the chats recently talking about 100 basis point cut. I see I mean, it's not impossible, but I see a very little sub 1% chance of that happening. Not impossible, but highly unlikely. All right, let's get our UNH trade plan locked in here. Whoops, not 651. Golly. Get my fingers warmed up here this morning. I keep hitting that 6 instead of 3. There we go. Downside 50 on down to 341, 314.89, and 305.34 with a stop loss average down at 341.07. No shared stop loss average down. All that looks good. We don't need to be off 40. There we go. All right. Let's pop that on. Let's clean up our chart real quick. There we go. Let me adjust this Y offset just a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. All right. Let's get this posted. And over here in the Elite chat, so we can grab our link. Let's lock in our template. Thursday. Set our alerts. Same as chart. Yep, that all looks good. We'll give it till next week. All right, so let's talk through this real quick. And we're getting a potential test of the call entry here pre-market. What are we looking for on UNH? We're looking for a break over 351.15. I do think that ultimately over 351.15 it will make its way to 377.44 in the long run and fill that fair value gap back to the upside. That being said, we do want to take some profits along the way there. So we've got a first target there at 360.52. 366.54, and then on up to that ultimate target there at 377.44 for UNH over that 351.15 break. Stop loss average down at 345.04. To the downside, we're looking to get in some puts if we get a confirmed break below 334.50. That should bring price targets at 323.41, 314.89, and 305.34 with a stop loss average down at 341.07. Those are your UNH trade plans. Let's go. All right, what was the next one? AMD for Bile. But this is interesting. JP Morgan decision to block is a major setback. Yeah, that everybody thought that strategy was going to be in the S&P 500. That did not happen. That could certainly create some buy the dip opportunities on MSTR, aka strategy. I agree. Interesting article or post there. All right, let's take a look at this AMD setup. How do we want to trade it? Let's get this chart squared away here. All right. Playing through some previous trade plan levels. Back to the upside. Let's clean this up real quick, though. Okay, that all looks good. All right. So, AMD. That's not really a useful trend line anymore. Kind of intrigued by this 161.07 as a call entry. Got the 200 SMA overhead there. Here on the hourly. So strong confluence right there. Just a little bit concerned about it not getting a full push over that level potentially. Maybe we need to look a little. Yeah, I think we do. So this is definitely going to be a wait for, I mean, obviously there is a window of opportunity, but I don't think we get like a really good confirmed push or a confirmed what's the right word I'm looking for here. I just think the window of opportunity looks better if we can get over that 162.41. But clearly, I think it could push if we get a break over 159.67. I'm a little bit torn on this one. All right, let's do this. Let's take a shot at it. I'm going to switch this up. I may look back and regret this decision. We will see. That looks good. That looks good. Looks to be right at, might be a little bit better. Let me just measure this off real quick. Yeah, right at a 1-to-1 setup. So this would certainly be a start small, keep it small, especially at the outset of this trade. And this is definitely the more aggressive approach. I think the safer call entry is over 162.41, but there is a window of opportunity there that we could try to capitalize on that would take us from 159.67 up to what I think is that key break there at 162.41. Over 162.41, I think will give us a move up to this 164.27 level. And above that, AMD's been very volatile and choppy in this range. Sorry, I'm sitting here debating with myself a little bit. I think that level is where it needs to be. Yep. Let's take a shot at 166.78 for that third price target. So then the question becomes, where does downside really get interesting? Yeah, AMD was beat down for a while. Right now, this is the level that I'm looking at 154.10. Let's see how that looks here recently. Roll number 2 if you buy AMD, get out. Sounds like somebody's got a history with AMD there, LB. That's okay. Everybody has that ticker. For me, it's Tesla. Years and years and years ago, I just couldn't get my game on with Tesla, I guess is the best way I can say it. Just felt like I was constantly making wrong decisions in my trades with Tesla, and so I decided to put it on the do not trade list, where it remains to this day. All right, we're going to take a shot at this one, making a move down to this weekly support. This has been very weird price action down here below that, though. So let's take a look at how this has played out historically. Yeah, pretty clear. 147.56. We could see a pullback to there and then below. 147.56. Yeah, I think we could see 144.60. All right. So let's get this locked in. $59.67 takes us up to 162.41, 164.27, 166.78. Stop loss average down. Takes us down to 150.55, then 147.56, and then on down to 144.60. Shared stop loss at 156.91. I don't know why that got set to 40. Okay. let's... There we go. Looks good. All right, let's get this posted. In the elite chat, get our message link. Oh, you know what I forgot to do on the last one? Mark when we put this plan into effect, but I can go back and fix that quickly. Let's see, we did get our link in. Let's get our template saved. And let's get our alerts set. That happens every time I draw that horizontal line and forget to unselect it. Okay, everything's set, ready to go. So let's talk through this AMD plan. What are we looking for on AMD? We're looking for a break over 159.67. Again, this is an aggressive entry. I think things do look better on a break over 162.41, but we're going to take a shot at using that as PT1 instead of a call entry. Over 162.41, we're looking for targets at 164.27 and 166.78. Ultimate price target for this upside plan with a stop loss average down at 156.91. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 154.10. That should bring targets at 150.55, 147.56, and 144.60 with a shared stop loss average down at 156.91. Those are your AMD live stream plans for this Thursday morning Chart Talk live session. Let's catch up on the chat here real quick. Dip and rip, so you think it'll fake a few people out? Either way, let the market digest. Chris with great advice as always. Yep, great advice there, Chris, as far as just being patient. Don't try to rush in at the open. Those are very, very, like, I mean, I've got to see a really fantastic confluence being tested for a potential reversal play. Typically, is what I'd be looking for to get into something at the open. And even then, I'd be starting it very small. So yeah, be very careful buying the open because there's a lot of trades settling, profit taking by longs and or shorts. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens in those first 30 minutes that can make price action a bit unreliable and very easy to get caught in that early morning market volatility, only to wind up taking a decent L on a trade. So, yeah, I agree with everything Chris just said there in that response there to you to the moon. LB, if I have patience, yep. Yeah, Elon can be very reckless with your money. That's for sure. He is not always looking out for his shareholders' best interest. Sometimes Elon needs to Elon regardless of what that might mean for his shareholders. So, all right, we've gotten a couple of trade plans in this morning. We are about 15 minutes out from market open. It certainly doesn't hurt for me to have a little bit of extra time to put together the SPY plan, especially after CPI and jobless loss readings this morning. So I think we're at a good stopping point here for this Thursday morning session. I do want to thank everybody who took the time to join me here this morning. It is much appreciated. Hope you all got something from it in addition to these couple of trade plans that we published. We will be back next Tuesday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I hope you all will make it back for that session. Until then, as we always say here on Chart Talk Live, plan your trades, trade your plans. Remember, we're looking for profits, not perfection, so keep those wins big, keep those losses small. Go out there and get some green, secure those bags. I will see you all in the chats, and I will see you back here next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, take care. I will see you all soon. Have a great day.